Well, the first summer blockbuster movie has arrived. It's called Inside Out 2, and it has already made over $500 million in just 1 week. Now, in case you haven't seen Inside Out 1 or 2, these are animated movies from Pixar Studios. They give us an inside look into the mind of a girl named Riley, and her emotions are depicted on screen as colorful animated characters. In part 1, we met joy, sadness, anger, and fear. In part 2, Riley turns 13 and hits puberty. So we're introduced to a whole new set of emotions, including embarrassment, envy, boredom, and anxiety, who all make their appearance right when Riley is heading off to sports camp, an opportunity that could determine her life in high school, college, and beyond. Now, I won't ruin the movie and give you the whole plot, but anxiety seems to be the most controlling emotion for Riley. Anxiety wants to call all the shots, believing that she knows exactly what Riley needs to survive and thrive. But unchecked, anxiety leads to disaster. What I love about the movie is its honest and straightforward portrayal of the thoughts, memories, and emotions that shape every individual's character, including mine and yours. And that when things in life don't go as planned, we have to decide how to respond. Which emotion will control us? Will it be sadness, anger, fear, or anxiety? Well, this is week 3 of our summer message series titled Mark My Words. We're starting this summer with a deep dive into the Gospel of Mark, since we're hearing passages from him in our Sunday Masses this year. Mark wrote in an honest and straightforward manner. The words he wrote teach us how to follow Jesus in our daily lives and how to grow in faith and love. The gospel story we just heard gives us some powerful lessons on what to do when things in life don't go as we plan. So, let's get started. Mark described a time when Jesus was with his apostles in a boat when this violent storm blew up. Some of the apostles were fishermen by profession, yet this storm so terrified them that they thought they were about to die. What should they do? How should they react? Should they give in to sadness and decide all is lost? They could have surrendered to their fears and just shut down emotionally, or allowed their anxieties to sink them. Thankfully, they didn't do any of those things. Instead, they turned to Jesus for help. Mark told us that Jesus was asleep on a cushion when the apostles woke him and told him what was going on. And here's what Jesus did. He woke up, rebuked the wind, and said to the sea, "Quiet, be still." The wind ceased, and there was great calm. As I said, this is a powerful story with several important lessons for us. First, it teaches us that God has the power to do all things. The one who made the wind and seas and storms has control over those things. Jesus proved this. He rebuked the wind, told the sea to be still, and they obeyed. Imagine the apostles' reaction to seeing Jesus do this. Could any doubt remain in their minds about who they were following? This is the Christ, the Messiah, the one who can do all things. The second important lesson in this story is about what we should do when the storms of life come our way. And sooner or later, we will all find ourselves caught up in one. Maybe you're in the midst of one right now. You might be anxious about a loved one's health. You might be fearful about your job or school or finances. You might be angry or sad about the future ahead of you. Your storm might be so bad that you feel like you're drowning. What can you do? The answer is to do what the apostles did. Turn to Christ. Turn to Christ. Don't be ruled by your fears. Don't surrender to sadness. Don't be controlled by anxiety. No, turn to Christ for help. Notice where Jesus was when he was awakened by the apostles, asleep on a cushion. When he woke up, he didn't panic. He didn't shout or scream, didn't cry or cower in fear. No, Jesus remained calm, collected, and in control. Jesus was the eye in the midst of the storm. He was the only person in that boat who could save the apostles. They turned to Christ for help, and he helped them. What Jesus was really doing that day on the sea was giving his disciples a lesson that he hoped they would never forget. And they would need to remember it because more storms were headed their way. Not natural storms, but emotional ones. The closer they got on their journey to Jerusalem, the more fear and anxiety they would experience. Jesus wouldn't take away those storms, but he would remain with them through the storms. Together they would get through. And this is a lesson we need to learn too. Just like the apostles, Jesus will never abandon us in the storms of life. He will be right there with us, no matter how dark or desperate things get. But let's be honest, this isn't always easy to see or believe. It's important to know that when you and I experience one of life's storms, like one of those things I already mentioned, it's not God punishing us. God is not vindictive, vengeful, or cruel. We live in a fallen world, a world where sickness and death, pain and struggles exist. And this isn't the world God originally intended for his children. Can storms ever be good? The answer is yes, as hard as it can be to believe. Life's storms can have silver linings, though usually it's only after we've come through the storm that we're able to see them. I've experienced this in my own life and in the lives of many parishioners. I've witnessed some amazing moments of grace in the midst of sickness, crisis, even death. Loved ones coming together, stepping up to help out, comforting and supporting and praying for one another. People putting aside their differences and letting go of petty concerns, suddenly realizing what matters most in life. These are lessons that they wouldn't have learned without the storm, without the crisis. Last week I talked about providential relationships. Disciples believe that God sends people into our lives at just the right moment to guide us, to support us, to comfort us, and even correct us. And that's because if we want to survive the storms of life, we need others to get through. We need others. The apostles turned to Jesus in the midst of their storm. They chose right. He was their calm center. If you are going through any kind of storm right now, I encourage you to find someone to be your calm center. Don't turn to someone who will only feed your panic, anger, or anxiety. Instead, look for that family member, friend, or parishioner who can help you maintain your balance and perspective. Someone who has the wisdom, insight, and experience to help you discover the silver lining in your storm. And like the apostles, turn to Jesus when times get tough. Now, next weekend, Father Kennedy will be here with another message for us from the Gospel of Mark. And at the end of his homily, Father will invite you to write down any need you have that you want to offer to God. And then the host team members will collect all the prayer needs, place them in front of the altar, and we will pray for each other's needs during the intercessions. So this week, think about what you or a loved one is facing, and return next weekend to offer that to Christ. Amen.